Diyos. Maraming salamat po sa buhay at lakas na aming taglay, sa liwanag ng kaisipan at sa pagkakataong maipagpatuloy ang pag-aaral ng mga kabataan. Gabayan po ang bawat isa sa amin. Anuman ang bahagi na aming gagampanan, naway maging maayos at matagumpay ang pagtuturo at pag-aaral na aming gagawin sa araw na ito. Patawarin mo po kami sa aming mga pagkulang at pagkakasala. At sa aming paggawa, ikaw po ang aming makasama. Amen.
Good morning, senior high school students. Welcome to our Earth and Life Science virtual classroom. I am Mr. Jonathan Alvances from Senior High School Department of Valenzuela National High School. Join me in another thrilling Valenzuela Live session full of excitement and knowledge about Earth science. We feel alarmed when something unusual is happening in our surroundings. Hanging objects are moving and the ground is shaking. We try to confirm things, and we start to become more conscious of what will happen next. When confronted with situations like this, we should have the instinct of how we will react, and we can do best if we know what might happen brought about by this situation. That will be our lesson for today, the hazards caused by geological processes. Before we proceed, let us first have the most essential learning competency that we need to attain today. Describe the various hazards that may happen in the event of earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and landslides. Let us set the mood by having a word hunt activity. In this activity, you will act as word hunters, and you need to find the words in each word hunt puzzle. Here are the mechanics. Type in the comment section the different words you can see in the word search puzzle which has a relation to our lesson for today. These words are arranged vertically, horizontally, or diagonally. You will be given 5 seconds to find the word in each puzzle. Are you ready? Then let's begin. Word hunt puzzle number 1. It is a sudden and violent shaking of the ground. Time starts now. If your answer is earthquake, you are correct. Word hunt puzzle number 2. It happens when lava and gas are discharged from a volcanic vent. Time starts now. If your answer is eruption, you are correct. Word hunt puzzle number 3. It is a potential source of harm. Time starts now. If your answer is hazards, you are correct. Word hunt puzzle number 4. It is a kind of hazard that happens on Earth's surface. Examples are earthquake and landslides. Time starts now. If your answer is geological, you are correct. Word hunt puzzle number 5. It is a long, high sea wave caused by an earthquake. Time starts now. If your answer is tsunami, you are correct. You have done a great job. We will be encountering these different words when we proceed with our lesson. At this point, we are going to start the discussion of the lesson. Let us begin by defining what is a natural hazard. Natural hazards are natural phenomena caused by rapid or slow onset of events. Natural hazard can be classified as hydrological, climatological, biological, or geological hazard. Hydrological hazards are defined as extreme events associated with occurrence, movement, and distribution of water. Examples are drought and flooding. Climatological hazards are caused by long-lasting atmospheric processes that ranges from interseasonal to multi-decadal climate variability. This includes extreme changes in temperatures and wildfires. Biological hazards or biohazards are biological substances that pose a threat to the health of living organisms, primarily that of humans. Examples are medical waste, viruses, and toxins. Lastly, geological hazards, also known as geophysical hazards. These are destructive geologic conditions that originate from the solid earth, like volcanic eruption, earthquake, and landslides. And these geophysical hazards are the main focus of our discussion for today. First geophysical hazard that we are going to discuss is the volcanic eruption. Volcanic eruptions are one of the Earth's most violent agents of change. Volcanic activities cause different kinds of events that pose great harm and destruction to life and property. These are the potential hazards of a volcanic eruption: lava flows, lahar, yokolhops, pyroclast, pyroclastic flows, phreatic explosions, tephra, and volcanic earthquakes. Let us describe each of them. Lava flows are streams of molten rocks that pour from an erupting vent of a volcano. The speed at which lava moves is highly dependent upon these factors: the type of lava erupted and its viscosity, steepness of the ground, and rate of lava production of the vent. You can see on the picture the lava flows from Mayon volcano. The eruption happens last January 23, 2018. Lahars are volcanic mud flow made of volcanic debris and loose pyroclastic materials that mix with precipitation. The picture shows a river with lahar flow coming from Mount Mayon in Albay province last January 27, 2018. Yokolhops are large abrupt floods of water from glacial lakes or beneath glaciers. Once the lava begins to permeate up through the glacier, catastrophic melting might happen. A picture that shows icebergs were left perched on dry land after a yokolhop drained the lake in National Park, Alaska. Pyroclast. These are volcanic fragments or broken rocks launched through the air by volcanic activity. Spatter, which is a type of pyroclast that are thrown through the air and lands while still molten. Next, we have pyroclastic flows. These are some of the most dangerous hazards during a volcanic eruption. These are superheated clouds of pyroclastic materials such as rocks and tephra that move away from vent at high speeds and destroying nearly everything on its path. In the picture, you can see pyroclastic flows spewing from the Mount Pinatubo on June 17, 1991. The Mount Pinatubo eruption was considered as the second largest volcanic eruption of the 20th century. Phreatic explosions are steam-driven eruption that happens when water beneath the ground or on the surface is heated by magma or other volcanic deposits. You can see the steam and ash near the vent at Taal in the Philippines last January 17, 2020. Tephra, or volcanic ashes, are fine particles of pyroclastic material that carried by winds. These ashes cover and infiltrate openings and is highly abrasive. It can obscure light, causing temporary darkness and reduce visibility to zero. As seen on the picture, tephra deposit about 9 cm thick covers former U.S. Clark Air Base during the climactic eruption of Mount Pinatubo on June 15, 1991. Lastly, volcanic earthquakes. These are caused by the movement of magma or fluids underground. Volcanic earthquakes are a valuable tool for monitoring volcanoes and forecasting eruptions since seismic activity precedes eruption. Those are the potential hazards of a volcanic eruption. Next geophysical hazard is earthquake. It is a sudden and violent shaking of the ground as a result of movements within the Earth's crust or volcanic action. The activity may cause a great destruction and damage to properties. These are the hazards caused by an earthquake. The potential hazards of an earthquake include the following: ground shaking, earth rupture, tsunami, subsidence and lateral spreading, liquefaction, and landslide. Let us describe each of these earthquake hazards. First, ground shaking. Ground shaking is caused by seismic waves during an earthquake. Different locations may experience different intensities from the earthquake. This is due to the location of the area from the epicenter and the type of rocks and sediments beneath the ground. Number 2, the rupture of the Earth's surface that takes place along the fault trace. This produces a fault scarp, which may have up to several meters of vertical displacement. This can disrupt roads and utilities, and buildings located on a fault that ruptures may undergo extensive damage. This is an example of a fault scarp by an earthquake in La Libertad, Negros Occidental. Tsunami. It is a set of waves in the ocean with an extremely long wavelength. Tsunamis can be set off by various events, most commonly during an earthquake that greatly shake the ocean floor. On the picture is a 13-foot tsunami triggered by an 8.9 magnitude earthquake that swept shores along Iwanuma in northern Japan. Subsidence and lateral spreading. Subsidence or lowering of the ground surface often occurs during earthquakes. It is a result of vertical displacement on one side of a fault. On the other hand, lateral spreading occurs when sloping ground starts to move downhill, causing cracks to open up. The picture shows a crack on a road in Lubbock, Bohol Province after an earthquake on October 15, 2013. Next, liquefaction. It occurs when waterlogged sediments are agitated by seismic shaking. Buildings and other structures can sink down into the ground or tilt over. The aftermath of liquefaction can leave large areas covered in a deep layer of mud. The outcome of ground liquefaction can be seen in the tilting of the Emilio Aguinaldo College building after the 6.1 magnitude quake that hit Zambales and Metro Manila on April 22, 2019. Lastly, landslide and avalanche. High-magnitude earthquakes can trigger landslide and avalanche on steep and mountainous areas. This can cause damage to buildings and other properties in the path of the landslide. On the left is a picture of an earthquake-induced rock slide in Argao, Cebu after a magnitude 7.2 earthquake on October 2013. On the right side is a photograph from Mount Everest Base Camp after the quake-induced avalanche on April 25, 2015. The last geophysical hazard that we're going to study about is the landslide. A landslide is a type of mass wasting which is down slope movement of soil, rocks, and debris under the influence of gravity. The movement can occur in various types such as fall, topple, slide, or flow. Let us describe each type of landslide. First, fall. Falls are sudden movements of masses of geologic materials detached from steep slopes. This movement occurs by free fall, bouncing, and rolling. Second, topple. A topple is the tilting or forward rotation of blocks of rocks on a pivot, then separating from the main mass and falling to the slope below. Third, slide. It refers to the movement of soil or rock along a surface of rupture that separates the slide material from more stable materials beneath. Lastly, flow. It is a mass movement down a slope with a fluid motion. A significant amount of water may or may not be a part of this mass movement. These are the types of landslide. At this point, we will enumerate some of the destructive landslides that happened in the Philippines. Being a country that experiences typhoons all throughout the year, landslides are not rare events in the Philippines. Heavy rains can loosen the soil in various regions, resulting to landslides in landslide-prone areas. Here are some major landslides that happened in our country in the past 2 decades. Cherry Hills landslide. On August 3, 1999, heavy rain because of Typhoon Ising caused disaster for residents of Cherry Hills subdivision in Antipolo City. Ginsaugon landslide. An earthquake triggered a landslide of mud and boulders towards Ginsaugon village in St. Bernard, Southern Leyte on February 11, 2006. New Bataan debris flow. Rains brought by Typhoon Pablo caused a massive debris flow in Barangay Andap, New Bataan, Compostela Valley on December 4, 2012. Itogon landslide. On September 15, 2018, Typhoon Ompong brought heavy rains and strong winds in northern Luzon. A landslide occurred at a mining town in Itogon, Benguet. Naga Cebu landslide. Heavy monsoon rains softened the limestone and soil on mountainside, resulting to a landslide in Naga City, Cebu on September 20, 2018. These are just some of the most destructive landslides recorded in the history. Before we proceed with the assessment, let us first have a summary of our lesson. Remember, hazards are natural phenomena that might impact a region. It can be geological, hydrological, climatological, or biological hazard. Geophysical hazards are adverse geologic conditions that originate from the solid earth. Example of these events are volcanic eruption, earthquake, and landslide. Earthquake hazards include ground shaking, earth rupture, tsunami, lateral spreading, liquefaction, and landslide. Hazards of volcanic eruptions are lava, lahar, yokolhops, pyroclastic flows, phreatic explosions, tephra, and volcanic earthquakes. Landslide is a downward mass wasting event that can occur in various ways, such as fall, topple, slide, spread, and flow. The Philippines commonly experiences landslides. Some of the destructive landslides are the Ginsaugon and Itogon landslide. We will now test your knowledge. Read and analyze each question. Choose the letter of the correct answer and write it in a piece of paper. You will be given 5 seconds to answer each question. Question number 1. Which one is a correct description of a tsunami? A. Movement of the ground. B. Molten rocks that pour from an erupting vent. C. Set of waves in an ocean that has a long wavelength. Or D. Volcanic ashes. Time starts now. If your answer is letter C, you are correct. Tsunami is a set of waves in ocean that has a long wavelength. Question number 2. How does tephra become harmful? A. It can cause temporary darkness. B. It can wash away everything on its path. C. It can produce fault scarp. Or D. It can cause movement on the ground. Time starts now. If your answer is letter A, you are correct. Tephra is harmful because it can cause temporary darkness to an area. Question number 3. Which is the correct description of geological hazards? A. Extreme events in water occurrence. B. The extreme changes in atmospheric processes. C. It comes from virus and toxins. Or D, these are adverse conditions that originate from the solid Earth. Time starts now. If your answer is letter D, you are correct. Geological hazards are adverse conditions that originate from the solid Earth. Question number 4. What has a direct influence on the downward movement of landslide? A. Seismic waves. B. Heat from magma chamber. C. Gravity. Or D. Wavelength. Time starts now. If your answer is letter C, you are correct. Gravity has a direct influence on the downward movement of landslide. Question number 5. Which of the following explains a fall type of landslide? A. Tilting of a block of rocks. B. Movement of soil on a rupture. C. Slide down slope with fluid motion. Or D. Movement of geologic materials detached from cliffs. Time starts now. If your answer is letter D, you are correct. A fall type of landslide is a movement of geologic materials detached from cliffs. For your questions and clarifications about our lesson for today, kindly coordinate with your subject teachers during your follow-up sessions. Laging tatandaan, mainam ang batang may alam sa agham. Have an aghamazing day. That ends our class. Thank you for listening and see you on our next Valenzuela live streaming session.